I was thinking on the drive-in today, usually when we talk about a building project, there is this expectation of just absolute, uncompromising security.
Oh, sure. Like you want it to be solid.
Right, think about medieval architecture or something. You build a massive castle, the blueprints show fixed stone walls, a deep moat, reinforced iron gates. And the architect just points at the drawing and says, well, there it is. Nothing is getting in.
And all our treasures are perfectly safe inside. I mean, it is a defensive posture by design.
Yeah, the entire architectural philosophy is built around preservation, hoarding resources, and surviving a siege. It's entirely binary. You are either impenetrable or you are vulnerable.
It's a very clean way to think, honestly.
It is clean. But here's the problem. When you step into the world of church, governance, denominational structures, and local mission, that castle blueprint doesn't just stop working.
No, it actually becomes a massive liability.
Exactly, because if you are building a fortress, you aren't building a mission outpost. And we are looking at a legislative landscape today that requires a completely different paradigm.
It is the absolute definition of the tension between building a fortress and expanding a kingdom. And that tension is exactly what the delegates to the LCMS 2026 convention are going to face the moment they step onto the floor.
So we are so glad you are here with us for this deep dive, because we are staring at a mountain of convention paperwork today. I mean, we have hundreds of pages scattered across the table here.
Literally hundreds.
Specifically, we are digging into today's business, Issue 1, the Convention Workbook, and the Amendment Field Guide that was uploaded for the delegates.
Right, the essential reading material.
If you are looking at this stack of paper and feeling completely overwhelmed, just take a breath. Our mission on this deep dive is to distill all this ink into a clear, actionable battle plan for you, the voting delegate. We are going to prepare you specifically for Floor Committee 1.
Which is focused entirely on national witness. And let's be clear about the stakes here, because Committee 1 is a critical committee.
Oh, absolutely.
They are dealing with church planting, urban ministry, campus outreach, revitalization. I mean, if you were stepping up to that microphone in front of 1,000 other delegates, you cannot just wing it.
No, you really can't.
You need to understand the actual mechanics of the legislation, not just the sentiment behind it.
So let's unpack this operating lens we're going to use to evaluate all this paperwork. We're calling it kingdom over castle. I mean, castle thinking is like a massive corporate headquarters, right?
Yeah, where everything gets sucked to the middle.
Right. It hoards the talent, the money, the decision-making power at the top. It pulls everything inward. Kingdom thinking, on the other hand, is like a highly efficient global supply chain.
I like that analogy.
Think about a massive logistics network. It doesn't exist to hoard boxes in a warehouse somewhere. It exists purely to equip the frontline outposts. In our context, those frontline outposts are the local congregations.
That supply chain analogy is incredibly apt, because if we ground this in the provided material, the underlying philosophy the delegates are being asked to consider is that the Synod, as an institution, should exist to serve congregations.
Yes.
It exists to facilitate gospel witness. It should not exist to build unnecessary centralized control. Throughout this entire deep dive, we are going to evaluate every single resolution through the twin concepts of mission over machinery and what the field guide calls low control with high accountability.
I want to pause on that phrase because it is so vital. Low control with high accountability. To me, that means giving the local folks, the pastors and lay leaders, actually doing the work in their specific zip codes, giving them the freedom to do what they need to do.
Right, because they know their neighborhood best.
Exactly. That's the low control part. But it also means setting up clear, measurable expectations to ensure they actually do it faithfully. And that's the high accountability.
Precisely. You don't micromanage their daily schedule, but you do ask them to report on their harvest. And to evaluate how well these resolutions achieve that exact balance, the guide lays out a brilliant framework that will act as our scorecard today. It's the stewardship of the 5 capitals.
The 5 capitals. I love this framework. Because, church folks usually only talk about one capital.
Money.
Just money, yeah. But there are 5. Let's lay them out for the listener, and I want to really dig into what these look like on the ground, not just in theory.
Let's do it. First, and obviously most importantly, you have spiritual capital. This is the absolute core of the church's existence.
Right.
We are talking about the word, the sacraments, prayer, catechesis, confession, local pastoral care. If a national resolution isn't somehow releasing spiritual capital into a local neighborhood, we really have to ask why we are even debating it.
Yeah, why we're spending the time. Then you have the second one, which is relational capital. This is the currency of trust. It involves mentoring, building local partnerships, finding those people of peace in a community.
Right, exactly.
You can have all the money in the world, but if your church has zero relational capital with the neighborhood, if nobody trusts you, your mission is dead in the water.
Totally dead in the water.
Yeah.
Third is physical capital. This is the tangible stuff. Buildings, schools, homes, university campuses, facilities, and the actual physical tools needed for ministry. It's the literal brick-and-mortar reality of gathering humans together in physical space.
Fourth is intellectual capital. And I think this one gets overlooked a lot, honestly.
Oh, all the time.
This includes training, demographic research, apologetics, doctrine, institutional wisdom, strategy. It's really the knowing how to do the work.
And finally, the fifth is financial capital. This is about the money, obviously. Grants, local stewardship, long-term sustainability, and shared financial resources. It is the fuel for the engine, but we have to remember it is not the engine itself.
So what does this all mean for you, the delegate sitting there with your voting keypad? It means Committee 1 has 15 proposed resolutions on the docket, and we are going to walk through every single one of them.
All 50.
All of them. We are going to apply this exact 5 capitals framework, analyze the risks of castle building, explore the mission opportunities, and look at precise parliamentarian-ready amendments. By the time we are done, when you step up to that microphone, you won't just be ready. You'll be the most informed person in the room.
It is a lot of ground to cover, but, this is the essential work of church governance. We are managing the machinery so the mission can actually thrive.
Let's get to work then. Section 1 is a cluster of 3 resolutions that really form the vanguard of outward-facing gospel action. We're looking at revitalization, urban contexts, and church planting. That's resolutions 105, 106, and 107.
I really like starting here because these 3 represent the entire life cycle and geographical spread of the church's local witness.
Let's start with resolution 105, which is to prioritize revitalization work. Let me give you the plain language summary here. This resolution focuses on renewing and revitalizing existing congregations that might be, struggling or plateaued.
Which is a lot of them.
It is a lot. The mission opportunity here is massive. We have thousands of gospel outposts already planted in communities across the country. Revitalizing them means bringing dead or dying embers back to a roaring fire.
It is a beautiful mission opportunity.
Yeah.
But let's put on our castle warning glasses for a second. What is the institutional risk here? The risk is a national office deciding to create a massive, one-size-fits-all, top-down revitalization program that completely ignores the local context.
Oh, I've seen this happen in the corporate world all the time. It's like a national agricultural board deciding that every single farmer needs a $1 million industrial combine harvester, and they ship one to a guy who is just trying to run a half-acre organic tomato garden in his backyard.
Right. It's completely useless to him.
It's the wrong tool for the context. If the national office creates a revitalization program that requires a 50-member rural church in Nebraska to operate like a 2,000-member suburban church in Texas, it's just going to crush them.
That is the castle risk in a nutshell. It's excessive control through inflexible programming. So we turn to the suggested amendment from the delegate field guide. The guide's language focuses on making these resources locally adaptable. And it is incredibly helpful because it anchors the concept of renewal in theology, not in corporate turnaround management.
So here is the improved amendment wording that a delegate can take to the floor. It's narrow, it's parliamentary ready. It says, clarifying that revitalization resources should be locally adaptable and centered in repentance, word and sacrament, prayer, catechesis, inactive member care, and local evangelism.
Look really closely at how that wording achieves the low-control, high-accountability metric. By saying the resources must be locally adaptable, you are removing the rigid control. The local pastor and the elders, they decide how to use the tools.
Right.
But by mandating that they be centered in repentance, the sacraments, and catechesis, you are enforcing high doctrinal accountability. You are ensuring they remain distinctly Lutheran.
So how does this amendment actually release the 5 capitals locally? Let's walk through it.
Spiritually, it's profound. Spiritual capital is released because the focus turns back to preaching, confession, and the font, rather than, marketing gimmicks. Relationally, the amendment specifically mentions inactive member care.
Which is so hard.
It is hard. but it forces the church to rebuild broken trust with people who have slipped out the back door.
And physically, I imagine this helps a church figure out how to use a massive, empty fellowship hall for neighborhood outreach instead of just letting it collect dust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Intellectually, it gives the local church wisdom on how to actually study their changing neighborhood demographics. And financially, it helps them align their local budget with actual discipleship rather than just draining their reserves to pay the heating bill for an empty room.
Okay, so you are the delegate, you have recognized the castle risk, and you want to offer this amendment. Here's your mic phrase, ready to go. You say, Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 105 by clarifying revitalization resources should be locally adaptable, centered in the Word and local evangelism.
Nice and punchy.
Right. But before you even get in line for the mic, you should be huddling with your district delegation. And the huddle question you need to ask them is this. Does this resolution mandate a rigid program, or does it provide flexible tools?
Because if the room realizes it mandates a program, they will vote for your amendment to turn it back into a tool set.
Let's look at Resolution 106. This is urban congregations and schools. The summary here is straightforward support for city-based ministries. But the sources note an interesting detail. There is an estimated $30,000 annually required for corporate synod contract labor here, plus whatever costs fall to the districts.
Right, so there's real money attached.
The mission opportunity is recognizing that urban churches are vital outposts. They aren't problems to be managed. They possess deep, hard-won local wisdom.
The city is just a complex ecosystem. You've got gentrification, transient populations, crime, economic disparity. I mean, the urban pastor deals with it all.
Yeah, it's intense.
So the council risk here is the temptation for a centralized office to try to manage urban ministry from afar. Perhaps relying on that $30,000 contract labor without actually empowering the leaders who live and bleed in those neighborhoods. You cannot effectively run a block party or a neighborhood school partnership in Detroit from a desk in St. Louis.
You just can't. You don't know the zoning laws, you don't know the local alderman, you don't know the specific neighborhood dynamics.
Exactly.
So the suggested amendment from the guide focuses heavily on prioritizing local leadership. I think this is a fantastic amendment because it forces the national structure to act as a connector, not a dictator.
Let's hear the wording for this one.
Okay. The improved wording for the delegate is add language, prioritizing local leadership, neighborhood relationships, school congregation partnerships, district collaboration, and a report before the 2029 convention.
That last clause is the absolute kicker. A report before the 2029 convention. That is how you build in high accountability. You are empowering the local urban networks to design their own strategies. That's the low control.
Yeah.
But you are telling the national entity, you must come back to this convention in 3 years and prove that you actually helped them.
Let's break down the 5 capitals for this urban resolution.
Okay. Spiritually, it releases capital by ensuring word and sacrament ministry remains deeply rooted in urban neighborhoods, which, sadly, are often the first places to be abandoned when demographics shift. Relationally, this is huge for urban workers. It builds peer cohorts, so a city pastor or a teacher isn't operating in total isolation.
Which is huge for burnout. And for physical capital, the amendment explicitly mentions school congregation partnerships. That's leveraging real estate and shared facilities for the gospel. Intellectually, it means giving these urban churches the specialized training they need. Maybe it's grant writing or navigating complex city governance.
Right, practical knowledge.
And financially, it ensures that the administrative support actually reaches the local level to sustain them.
So your mic phrase for the chairman is, Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 106 by adding language, prioritizing local leadership, and requiring a report by 2029.
And when you turn to the delegate next to you, your huddle question is, are we trying to manage our urban churches or are we trying to empower them?
If the answer is empower, the amendment is a necessity.
We wrap up Section 1 with Resolution 107, church planting at the parish level. This is a heavyweight resolution. The text in the workbook notes there are 33 active plants. $590,000 has already been distributed, and they are anticipating $2 million going into this.
Wow, that's a lot of funding.
The mission opportunity is thrilling. I mean, this is frontline parish-level expansion. The source material explicitly calls this a major kingdom over castle resolution.
And it really deserves that title because it recognizes a fundamental truth. Denominations don't plant churches. Local congregations plant churches. A mother church sends 20 families down the road to start a new mission. That is the kingdom at work.
But hold on, let me push back for a second here. If the source material says 107 is already a Kingdom Overcastle win, why are we messing with it? I mean, why not just hit the green button, vote yes, and go to lunch?
It's a very fair question. But you have to remember that convention resolutions set precedent for years, sometimes decades. Even good resolutions need guardrails.
That's true.
When you have $2 million on the table, the institutional temptation to suddenly start micromanaging those church plants from a national desk is overwhelming. It's just human nature. The risk here is unfunded mandates, or adding so much red tape to the grant process that a local church just gives up.
Yeah, the paperwork just crushes them.
Right. Amendments aren't just for fixing broken resolutions. They're for securing good ones so that future administrations don't accidentally pull them back into the castle.
Ah, okay. Locking in the freedom. That makes perfect sense. So looking at the amendment guide, it suggests focusing on tying grants to specific milestones. This is a brilliant way to keep accountability high without stifling the local planters' creativity.
What's the wording?
The improved wording is, ensure grants are tied to milestones and transparency, honoring the local parish as the primary planter.
It's the perfect balance. Financial transparency and milestone reporting are required. I mean, you can't just take synodical money and disappear.
Right, you have to show the work.
But the local mother church is legally and structurally honored as the primary driver of the mission.
And the release of the 5 capitals here is explosive. Spiritually, you are literally creating new altars and pulpits for the word and sacrament. Relationally, you are building deep mentoring bonds between the mother church, the circuit pastors, and the new mission core group.
Physically, you are unleashing creativity. This allows plants to utilize homes, school gymnasiums, rented storefronts, rather than just sitting around waiting until they can afford a traditional steepled building.
Well, yeah, which could take a decade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Intellectually, the funds go toward planner training and contextual mission coaching. And financially, those milestone-based grants inject critical sustainability into the critical first 3 years of a plant's life.
Your mic phrase for 107 is, Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 107 by ensuring grants are tied to milestones and honoring the parish as the primary planter. And your huddle question for your delegation is, does this language clearly support the local parish as the primary planter, or does it shift power to the national office?
You always want to keep the power as close to the local parish as possible.
All right, that brings us to Section 2. We've talked about planting new churches, but what happens 20 years from now? Like, who is actually sitting in those pews? This section shifts entirely to the next generation. We are looking at Resolutions 108, 109, and 112.
Generational discipleship. Because you can have all the beautiful physical capital in the world, but if you aren't passing the faith down to the next generation, your buildings are just future museums.
That's a haunting way to put it, but it's true. Let's dig into Resolution 108 to educate young people. In plain language, this resolution encourages the use of Lutheran schools, it supports homeschooling families, and it firmly supports parents as the primary educators of their children.
The mission opportunity is clear. It's equipping families for generational discipleship in a highly secularized culture.
But the castle risk here is notoriously common when national church bodies try to address youth ministry. The risk is that the institution creates these amazing, high-gloss, highly produced resources that only large, fully staffed megachurches can actually use.
Oh yeah, the overproduced curriculum problem.
I have seen this. A publisher puts out a youth curriculum that looks like a Hollywood production. But when you read the leader's guide, it requires a full-time youth director, a massive volunteer team, a dedicated worship band, and a specialized app to implement it.
It's just too much.
If you are a church of 45 people with one faithful elder running a youth group in a basement, you are completely locked out of that resource.
Precisely. The castle risk is locking everyone into one high-resource model of ministry. So the suggested amendment from the field guide pushes for scalability. It is an intensely practical amendment.
The improved wording you can take to the microphone is this. Clarify that these educational tools must be scalable, low cost, and usable by households and small congregations without full-time staff.
Notice how that applies low control and high accountability. It doesn't tell the national publisher what to write, but it holds them highly accountable for who must be able to use it. It demands universally accessible tools, not elite programs.
Let's run this through the 5 capitals. Spiritually, this amendment ensures that home worship and confirmation follow-up actually happen because the parents have tools they can understand. Relationally, scalable tools promote intergenerational mentoring.
Right, you don't need a cool young youth pastor.
Exactly. An 80-year-old elder can use a simple, scalable tool to mentor a 15-year-old.
Physically, it means effective ministry can happen in living rooms and small fellowship halls. Intellectually, it requires the creators of the tools to actually research the realities of Gen Z and Generation Alpha in small-town contexts. And financially, it mandates low-cost production so small churches aren't priced out of discipling their own kids.
So, delegate, your mic phrase is, Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 108 by clarifying tools must be scalable and usable for small churches. And your huddle question is, does this curriculum plan help parents in their living rooms, or does it bypass them entirely?
A vital question to ask. Next is Resolution 109, Youth and Young Adults.
This one promotes general ministry to youth, specifically focusing on retention. But the convention workbook notes something delegates need to circle in red pen. It says this resolution comes with potentially significant costs for studies and publications that are not yet fully scoped or budgeted.
That phrase should always set off alarm bells.
Yeah, potentially significant costs. The mission opportunity is obvious, though, retaining the youth who are bleeding out of the church.
But the castle risk is tied directly to those costs. I mean, how many studies have we seen over the last 20 years about millennials or Gen Z leaving the church?
Dozens. Hundreds, maybe.
Yeah. Right. The risk here is spending heavy financial capital on national demographic studies, abstract white papers, and glossy publications that ultimately sit on a server somewhere and never translate into actual sweaty, face-to-face local youth work.
The leaky bucket analogy comes to mind. If your bucket is leaking, you don't spend significant money commissioning a metallurgical study on the nature of the bucket's rust. You just buy some patch material and you fix the hole.
Exactly.
So how do we fix this resolution? The field guide says utilizing the master reporting template here is vital to track the money and ensure it actually hits the ground.
The improved wording is brilliant. It says, resolved that the responsible entity report to the 2029 Convention on cost, implementation, congregational usefulness, and mission impact regarding youth retention.
That is accountability with teeth. It allows the national office to conduct the study and create the materials. That's the low control. You aren't micromanaging their research.
But they have to come back.
Right. They have to come back in 3 years and prove, with measurable impact, that what they built was actually useful to a youth group in rural Iowa or downtown Chicago.
Looking at the capitals here. Spiritually, it demands that the result be deep, retained catechesis for young adults. Relationally, it pushes the focus toward building actual trust with youth, rather than just surveying them.
Right.
Physically, it encourages churches to carve out dedicated youth spaces. Intellectually, it ensures that any data gathered is actionable, not just academic. And financially, it acts as a massive safeguard. It directs synodical funds toward local usefulness rather than abstract administrative exercises.
Your mic phrase is, Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 109 by adding a requirement to report on congregational usefulness and actual cost by 2029. And your huddle question is, are we voting to spend money on theoretical studies or on actual youth work?
If it's studies, you amend it. Moving on to Resolution 112, we shift slightly older to campus ministry.
Resolution 112, to support campus ministry. This resolution asks for something very specific. It seeks roughly $200,000 annually to create a full-time national campus ministry position, which includes salary, benefits, and travel.
The mission opportunity is huge, honestly.
Oh, yeah. College is the critical window where young adults either jettison their faith or make it their own. Witnessing to university students is absolutely paramount.
But the castle risk here is glaring when you look at that $200,000 price tag. The risk is creating a permanent bureaucratic role that consumes $250,000 a year at the national level, while the actual local campus chapters on the ground are starving for funds just to buy pizza for a Wednesday night Bible study.
Let me do some napkin math here.
Right.
If you took that $200,000 and instead gave it directly to local campus chapters in the form of $5,000 microgrants, that is 40 different university campuses that just got their entire local outreach and food budget funded for the year. 40.
That's incredible impact.
Right. Versus one guy on an airplane flying from meeting to meeting.
And that is exactly the tension between the castle and the kingdom. Do you build the headquarters role, or do you supply the front lines?
So the suggested amendment from the guide rightly steps in to ensure this position is actually a kingdom role. It suggests focusing this new desk entirely on supporting the local chapters. The improved wording is, ensure the new position prioritizes local chapter support, connecting students to campus-adjacent congregations, and administering grants.
The accountability here is beautiful. because the position is allowed to exist, but its entire metric of success is redefined. Success is no longer measured by how many national meetings the director attends. It is measured by how much local capital they release.
And what does that released capital look like? Well, spiritually, it keeps transient college students tethered to word and sacrament in a local pew. Relationally, this director is now tasked with building networks between students, alumni, international students, and local campus pastors.
Physically, it utilizes those historic campus-adjacent churches as vital landing pads for students. Intellectually, it ensures the national office provides training in apologetics and vocation directly to the students. And financially, it guarantees that national funds are redirected into local grants, meals, and student retreats.
So the mic phrase is punchy. Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 112 by ensuring the position prioritizes local chapter support and administering grants. And the huddle question is, will this $200,000 position directly help our local university plant buy pizza and reach students?
If the answer is no, you have to amend it.
Okay, we are moving into Section 3, Cultural Witness and Digital Reach. This covers Resolutions 110, 111, 113, and 114.
Reaching the next generation naturally leads to a broader question, like how does the church engage the wider culture, both ideologically in the public square and digitally on the screens where everyone lives?
Now, before we dive into this section, I need to take a quick time out and remind you, the listener, of our mission here on the Deep Dive. Some of the resolutions in this section touch on culturally sensitive or politically charged topics regarding family, gender, and public apologetics.
Right, these can get heated.
Very heated. But as your hosts, we maintain absolute impartiality. We are not taking political sides, left or right. Our job is strictly to report on the content provided in the LCMS source material and to help you understand the parliamentary mechanics so you can serve the convention faithfully. We are not endorsing any specific political viewpoints. We are simply conveying the ideas in your delegate packet so you are ready for the floor.
That is an important boundary. Our focus remains entirely on how the delegate can navigate the legislation effectively based on the provided texts, ensuring the church's mission is protected.
Exactly. Let's start with Resolution 110. It is called, "To Confront Increased Idolatry of Our Culture with Clear Confession of Love of Christ and Lutheran Resources in Christian Apologetics."
That is quite a title. They did not hold back.
No, they didn't. The summary is that it aims to confront cultural idolatry by producing clear confession and apologetics resources. The mission opportunity here is vital. It's equipping the everyday laity, the plumber, the teacher, the nurse for cultural witness in their daily vocations.
But the castle risk is significant, especially in our current hyperpolarized climate. The risk is that these apologetics resources become purely combative, political, or abstractly academic, rather than focusing on the actual Great Commission goal, which is saving souls.
Right.
If apologetics devolves into just training people how to win arguments on social media or how to dunk on their ideological opponents online, it is not serving the kingdom. It is just adding noise.
Yeah, no one was ever argued into the kingdom in a Facebook comment section.
Exactly, never.
So the suggested amendment review points out that narrowing the tone of this resolution to serve evangelism is a brilliant theological safeguard. The improved wording you can offer is, ensure apologetics resources maintain a neighbor-facing evangelism focus, serving law and gospel proclamation.
I love the phrase neighbor-facing. It keeps the Synod focused on historic theology and relationship building, rather than drifting into unrelated culture wars. That represents high accountability to the Church's core mission of reconciliation.
Let's run the 5 capitals on this one. Spiritually, this amendment releases capital through a clear public confession of Christ. Relationally, and this is the big one, it builds and preserves neighbor relationships. You are teaching the laity to speak the truth in love to someone they actually know.
Physically, it encourages local outreach events where these conversations can happen face-to-face rather than hiding behind a screen. Intellectually, it provides robust, historically grounded apologetics training. And financially, it ensures the Church is spending its limited resource dollars on focused, theological tools that serve the gospel, not just cultural commentary.
Your mic phrase is, Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 110 to ensure apologetics resources maintain a neighbor-facing evangelism focus. And the huddle question is simple, but it should cut to the heart of every delegate. Is this resolution about winning arguments or winning souls?
Because if we win the argument but alienate our neighbor from the gospel, we have entirely lost the plot.
Resolution 111 is next. To confess God's design for the family. The summary is that this is a distinction-keeping resolution affirming the biblical family structure. The mission opportunity is providing clear, comforting teaching on the vocation of parents in a really confusing world.
The castle risk here is one we see at almost every convention. It's the risk of passing a resolution that uses grand, soaring, symbolic language, but provides absolutely no practical local action or resources.
Yeah, a lot of nice words.
Right, an eloquent statement read on the convention floor is nice, but it does absolutely nothing to help a single mother or a father struggling to lead devotions at the kitchen table on a Tuesday night.
So the guide suggests applying the master reporting template here to ensure that these grand words actually become usable tools. The improved wording is resolved, that the responsible office provide practical, locally adaptable resources for families and report on congregational usefulness by 2029.
This ensures the Synod produces the required resources, without dictating exactly how every family must use them. It honors the autonomy of the home, that's the low control, while demanding the institution actually deliver on its promises. High accountability.
Looking at the capitals here, spiritually, it supports actual home catechesis. Relationally, it builds parent-child trust through shared devotion. Physically, it reclaims the physical home as the domestic church, not just the sanctuary on Sunday morning.
Which is so important.
Intellectually, it provides solid, accessible biblical teaching. And financially, it mandates that these resources be provided free or in a highly accessible manner.
Because if a family has to pay $50 for a workbook just to learn how to pray together, you've defeated the purpose entirely.
Mic phrase for the delegate. Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 111 by adding a requirement for practical, locally adaptable resources for parents. And the huddle question, is this just a symbolic statement or does it actually equip our families on Monday morning?
We want tools, not just declarations.
Resolution 113 shifts us firmly into the digital realm to strengthen the Synod's digital witness and congregational connections. This aims at overhauling or strengthening LCMS.org and other digital tools.
The convention workbook notes there is no incremental cost identified yet for this one.
The mission opportunity is massive, though. I mean, in 2026, the front door of the church isn't the wooden doors on the building, it's the website. Reaching people online and plugging them directly into local pews is essential.
But anyone who has ever worked in corporate IT knows the castle risk here is absolutely terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
The risk is implementing expensive, top-heavy tech solutions like massive CRM databases or complex reporting software that are way too complex for a 50-member church to actually use. But furthermore, there's the immense risk of mishandling data privacy if local member data is suddenly sucked into a national database.
Oh, I've lived through bad church tech. You have a seeker looking for a church, they go to the National Church Finder, they get an address, they drive there on Sunday morning, and the building is empty because the church moved 5 years ago and the national database never updated.
That is heartbreaking.
It is. Data accuracy is actually a theological issue because it impedes the physical gathering of the saints.
That's a great point. So the suggested amendment is absolutely crucial to protect privacy and ensure scalability. The improved wording is add requirements for privacy, data accuracy, measurable goals, and small congregation usability.
That is the perfect balance of kingdom logistics. The national office handles the heavy tech lift, they pay the developers, they build the system, which is great, but they are held accountable to make sure it works safely and simply for a bivocational pastor in a rural parish who maybe only has an hour a week to update his church's profile.
Let's run the capitals. Spiritually, it facilitates the online proclamation of the word. Relationally, it digitally connects anonymous users to real-life, flesh-and-blood pastors.
Right, moving them from screen to person.
Yeah, exactly. Physically, it guarantees that the local church building remains the ultimate landing pad for the online seeker. Intellectually, it enforces rigorous data accuracy. And financially, it demands the building of cost-effective tools that don't burden local budgets with crazy software subscription fees.
Mike phrase. Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 113 by adding strict requirements for privacy, data accuracy, and small congregation usability. And the huddle question, can my 50-member church actually use this tech without hiring an IT guy?
Wrapping up Section 3 is Resolution 114, to give thanks for Lutheran Hour Ministries and encourage enhanced collaboration.
Let's give some quick context for the listener who might be new. Lutheran Hour Ministries, or LHM, is an incredible historic auxiliary of the church. They've been doing radio and media broadcasting for nearly a century.
Really amazing legacy.
This resolution gives thanks for them and encourages strategic collaboration with Synod leadership. The mission opportunity is leveraging this massive global media footprint for local gospel outreach.
The history is amazing, but we have to look at the present legislative risk. The risk here is that the word collaboration just remains a vague, top-level boardroom concept. Two executives having a nice lunch in St. Louis and signing a memo of understanding isn't mission.
Yo, it's not.
If the collaboration never reaches the pews, it's a castle exercise.
So the amendment guide suggests adding specific language about local follow-up. This bridges the gap between a massive national broadcast and a local communion rail. The improved wording is, add that collaboration should strengthen local congregational outreach, connect media listeners to nearby LCMS congregations, and provide practical follow-up tools.
It holds both national entities accountable to their ultimate purpose, which is serving the local parish.
The capitals here are pretty clear. Spiritually, it continues broad media proclamation. Relationally, it demands a mechanism to ensure listeners aren't just isolated consumers of media, but are personally connected to local church members.
Right, physically, again, the local church acts as the landing pad. Intellectually, it means providing local evangelism training based on the broadcast topics, and financially, it models shared media stewardship.
Mike Phrase. Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 114 by adding that collaboration must connect media listeners to nearby LCMS congregations. Huddle's question: how does this national broadcast actually help our local parish find the lost?
Excellent. Take a breath. We are cruising into Section 4, Milestones, Thanksgivings, and Housekeeping. These are Resolutions 101, 102, 103, 104, and 115. This final batch involves important historical milestones and the procedural clearinghouse of the committee.
Now, delegates sometimes tune out during these sections because they feel like routine business.
Oh, they totally check their phones.
Yeah, exactly. But they matter immensely for the culture and the historical memory of the church. Let's start with Resolution 101. To celebrate and encourage all nations ministry in North America. This is a resolution giving thanks for multilingual and multi-ethnic ministry, specifically highlighting Hispanic, Black, Hmong, Chinese, and other immigrant and ethnic ministries.
The mission opportunity is reflecting the actual demographics of North America and bearing outward witness to all nations.
But the castle risk here is leaving this as purely symbolic without actionable follow-up. It is very easy for a convention of mostly homogenous delegates to stand up, applaud the diversity of the church, pass a resolution of thanksgiving, and then do absolutely nothing to fund or support those ministries.
Talk is cheap. Translation services, culturally adapted catechesis materials, raising up indigenous pastoral leadership, that costs real time and money.
So the amendment guide notes the critical need to add reporting language to ensure follow-through. The improved wording is, add a reporting clause to ensure follow-through on resource creation for ethnic ministries.
This respects the freedom of ethnic ministries to operate in their unique cultural contexts. That's the low control. But it ensures the Synod is actually held accountable for providing the resources they promised.
The capital's release here is beautiful. Spiritually, the word is proclaimed for all nations in their heart languages. Relationally, it builds genuine ethnic partnerships across district lines.
Physically, it supports diverse, often under-resourced mission sites. Intellectually, it drives the creation of robust multilingual resources, and financially, it demands actual budgeted resource support, not just applause.
Mike Phrase. Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 101 to add a reporting clause to ensure follow-through on resource creation. Huddle question. Are we actually funding these ethnic ministries, or are we just cheering for them?
Next is Resolution 102, to proclaim 2029 the 500th year of Luther's Catechisms. This proclaims an anniversary year with a synod-wide initiative.
The mission opportunity is obvious. Deep foundational catechesis for the whole church, reconnecting with a document that changed the world in 1529.
But what is the castle risk of a synod-wide anniversary? It becoming an unfunded mandate, or worse, just an institutional branding exercise where the synod prints a bunch of expensive banners, creates a logo, sells coffee mugs, but no one actually learns the catechism.
Oh, we love a good anniversary logo.
We really do.
But the suggested amendment adds reporting expectations and requires free or low-cost accessibility for whatever materials are produced. Improved wording. Add clear reporting expectations before 2029 and specify accessibility of resources for small congregations.
This means the synod provides the tools affordably, but local churches have the freedom to implement them in a way that fits their context.
5 capitals. Spiritually, a return to kitchen table theology. Relationally empowering family discipleship. Physically, this happens in homes and day schools, not just Sunday school rooms.
Intellectually, deep, historic catechesis. Financial, ensuring accessible, affordable resources.
Mike Phrase. Mr. Chairman, I move to amend Resolution 102 by adding reporting expectations and ensuring low-cost accessibility. Huddle question. Who owns this initiative, and will it reach the poorest parish in our district?
Now we have Resolutions 103, which celebrates 150 years of Black ministry, and 104, which celebrates 130 years of deaf ministry. These are pure Thanksgiving and celebration resolutions.
And we should pause to recognize the history here. With Black ministry, you were talking about pioneers like Rosa Young, who was instrumental in planting schools and churches across the rural South under incredibly difficult circumstances.
And with deaf ministry, the LCMS has a long, proud history of breaking through the immense isolation of the deaf community, training pastors in sign language long before it was culturally mainstream.
It's an incredible legacy. So what is the PASL risk here? Honestly, it's very low. The suggested amendment review says these are prime candidates for the consent calendar.
Let's define the consent calendar for the uninitiated delegate. The consent calendar is basically the legislative fast-pass lane. It's a bundle of non-controversial resolutions that the convention votes to pass all at once without debate to save time for the heavy legislative fights.
So the advice here is don't amend these unless you desperately want to add practical resource language. Otherwise, let them pass as celebrations on the consent calendar. There is naturally low control here.
Yes, passing these releases spiritual capital through Thanksgiving, relational capital by honoring the saints who went before us, physical capital through local anniversary gatherings, and intellectual capital through historical awareness.
If for some reason someone pulls them off the consent calendar, your mic phrase is simply, Mr. Chairman, I move to support the resolution as presented. And your huddle question, are there local resources available to help us celebrate this history in our own parish?
Which brings us to the final resolution of the committee, Resolution 115, to respectfully decline overtures.
We need to define some jargon again. What is an overture and what is an omnibus declination resolution?
An overture is a proposal sent in by a local congregation or district before the convention. The floor committee reads them all and groups them into resolutions. If an overture doesn't fit, or the committee disagrees with it, they put it into a single omnibus resolution like 115, which basically says, we respectfully decline to act on all of these. It's a way to clean house.
Got it. Now, in this case, the committee is specifically declining Overture 114, which regards armed security at Synod schools. The mission opportunity of the omnibus resolution is keeping the convention focused and not over-legislating every single issue.
But the castle risk is that a legitimate pastoral or physical safety concern like school security in an era of tragic school violence might be swept under the rug and left unresolved just because the committee's reason for declining it was too thin.
The suggested amendment review points out a vital parliamentary tactic. If a delegate feels strongly about this armed security issue, the move isn't to try to amend the overture while it's trapped in the omnibus. The move is to extract it. The improved wording you use at the mic is, Mr. Chairman, I move to remove Overture 114 from the decline resolution for separate consideration.
That is high accountability in action. It forces the committee to bring that specific issue to the floor and explain why they declined it.
Doing so releases physical capital by directly addressing school safety and relational capital by providing peace of mind to parents and teaching staff.
Your huddle question before you make that move is the committee's written reason for declining this overture sufficient? If your delegation says no, you head to the mic and pull it out for debate.
Okay, take a breath. We made it through all 15 resolutions.
That was a marathon.
It was. Now we enter Section 5, the post-resolution wrap-up and delegate cheat sheet. Now that we've parsed the paperwork tree by tree, let's pull back and look at the forest. I want to turn it over to you for a cross-cutting evaluation. When you look at Committee 1 as a whole, are these resolutions helping local congregations engage the mission field?
Yes, overall, the theme is highly outward-facing. It is very much a kingdom agenda. The focus across the board is on revitalization, planting new outposts, and reaching the lost.
Are they preserving clear Lutheran confession while allowing faithful local flexibility?
They are, especially in 110 regarding apologetics and 111 regarding the family. Though, as we discussed, the amendments we suggested are exactly what helps secure that flexibility so it doesn't devolve into a rigid mandate.
Are they using the Synod as a servant and connector?
They are, if the amendments regarding reporting and local usability are applied. Resolution 113 on digital witness is the perfect example. The Synod only acts as a servant if data privacy and small church usability are guaranteed by the delegates.
And finally, do they keep Christ, the gospel, and the Great Commission central?
Absolutely. The focus across the board is Matthew 28, the Word and the Sacraments.
All right, let's run through the final deliverables for our delegate listeners. We've got 4 lists. List A is the ranked list of most important amendments. If a delegate only has time to focus on 5 things, what is number 1?
Number 1 is 107, church planting. It has a heavy financial impact, $2 million, and we must ensure the local parish remains the primary planter.
Number 2.
106, urban contexts. It desperately requires that local leadership focus amendment so we aren't managing cities from afar.
Number 3.
112, campus ministry. We must secure that $200K role for local grant administration, not just a national desk job.
Number 4.
105, revitalization, keeping those resources adaptable to the local context and centered on the Word.
And number 5.
113, digital witness, securing greater privacy and usability for the smallest congregations.
Perfect. List B is the list of unnecessary amendments.
That would be 103 for black ministry and 104 for deaf ministry. Unless you have a specific resource to add, let those Thanksgiving stand proudly on the consent calendar.
List C is the master amendment paragraph. This is your ultimate Swiss Army knife as a delegate. If you forget everything else, write this down and take it to the microphone. Are you ready?
Go for it.
It says, resolved, that implementation of this resolution be carried out in a way that serves congregations, schools, districts, circuits, and local ministry contexts, preserves clear Lutheran confession, avoids unnecessary centralization, and provides a brief report before the 2029 convention describing resources created, partnerships formed, congregations served, 5 capitals stewarded, and lessons learned.
If you parse that paragraph, it contains everything we've talked about.
No.
Kingdom over castle, the 5 capitals, and low control with high accountability. It fits almost any resolution.
Finally, list D, the delegate cheat sheet. This is about how you actually behave on the floor. First, how do you address the chairman? You step to the mic, wait to be recognized, and say, Mr. Chairman, your name, your district, voting delegate. Second, how to move an amendment. You say, I move to amend Resolution X by striking words and inserting words. And remember the mechanics, a written copy must go to the secretary, usually via a page.
Third, how to speak for an amendment once you've moved it. Keep it to 20 to 40 seconds. Give one clear reason. For example, I speak in favor because this adds accountability without unnecessary control. Please, I am begging you, no homiletical hostage situations. Do not preach a sermon.
Yes, no sermonizing at the mic. You will lose the room instantly. Fourth, how to ask a question if you're confused. Mr. Chairman, I rise to request information from the floor committee. Fifth, how to withdraw or revise an amendment if the committee actually answers your concern nicely. Mr. Chairman, in light of the committee's explanation, I request permission to withdraw my amendment.
And finally, keep your tone firm, fraternal, and useful. Avoid attacking motives. Target the wording on the page, not the people on the dais. We are all brothers and sisters in Christ, trying to do the right thing.
That is so important. As we wrap up this massive deep dive, we want to leave you with a gospel-centered frame.
We have to remember that convention procedure is not a game of parliamentary whack-a-mole. Finance, structures, and bylaws, they are merely tools. We manage the administration carefully so that the kingdom can flourish. We do all of this so that Christ may be preached, pastors may be formed, families may be catechized, and sinners may be saved. That is the only reason we gather in that room. The convention serves the risen Christ, his church, and the sending of his people into the harvest.
And as you think about that harvest, I want to leave you with this final thought. When the delegates of 2076, 50 years from now, look back at the minutes of what you voted on today, what will they see? Will they see a church that was merely managing its own institutional decline, obsessed with building higher walls? Or will they see a church that was fearlessly planting trees for shade they knew they would never sit in? As you step to that microphone, vote for the harvest. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you on the convention floor.